Ethiopia made the headlines of the global media in July 2019 when it broke the world record for planting trees as it planted 350 million seedlings in a day. And this was part of Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's initiative of the Green Legacy, which he started in 2019. And the target set was to plant 20 billion seedlings. And so far, the country planted 18 billion seedlings. And this year, in 2022 seedling plantation session, the country targeted at planting 6 billion trees. Thank you for joining me, and I'm Sintayo Tamrat with this edition. And in this edition, we'll try to focus on the Ethiopian Green Legacy Initiative so far, the progresses, the challenges, as well as how to sustain that and just incorporating more countries from the East African region. And my guest today is Dr. Rita Butu-Moges, the coordinator of the National RED Plus program, which is reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation program, or RED Plus, as I said. Thank you for watching me, and a very warm welcome to you, Dr. Rita Butu-Moges.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity, actually.
Before moving to the Green Legacy Initiative, let's try to focus on the performances of the RED Plus project in Ethiopia in brief.
Yes, RED Plus, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation plus reforestation, I think is a program, a global program actually, for developing nations. It's a climate mitigation program. As you know, climate change is caused by human activities, and two main activities include fossil fuel burning, 80% of the global emissions, and 20% is from land use changes, primarily tropical deforestation. So tropical countries who have forests are expected to address their emissions in the forest sector. So Ethiopia is one of maybe the 70 plus countries who are involved in RED Plus, in the global RED Plus program. And we are actually among the few leading nations in terms of performance. Why? Number one, we have accomplished our readiness from 2013 to 2017, in 4 years, 5 years. RED readiness is a very complex process, which involves really consultations of thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of stakeholders, designing the national forest monitoring system, which requires high level, really technical expertise on remote sensing, GIS, resource assessment, national forest resource inventory, a number of really complicated things, safeguards, initiating and developing the tools for, enabling environment and social safeguards during the implementation of RED. We had to develop also, RED strategy, national RED strategy. It is a RED design requirement. So, of course, before you design the real national RED strategy, you have to really make a number of studies, including what are the drivers of deforestation in this country, and what can we do in order to address those. A number of things were done. So overall, also we had to set a benchmark before RED implementation. How much was the national emission, or country's emission from the forest sector? This is our benchmark against which our performance in the future is measured as a country. So we had to really do a lot of things, and we have really partnered with FAO, UNDP, UNRED, World Bank, Norway, in order to, UK even, in order to really achieve this national capacity. And we did that, and we graduated in 2017 in Laos PDR. So readiness is done. Now we are in investment phase. We have generated over $100 million during the past 4 years, about $20 million for Oromia and $80 million for 5 regions, including Oromia. So it's really pumping a lot of dollars into this country. So very, very, very good. We are now active in 190 plus waradas in Oromia, Amara, Tigray, even Gambia and southern nations. So we are doing reforestation. We are implementing participatory forest management using this 100 million USD during the past 4 years.
Well, now let's come back to the Green Legacy Initiative. And what is your view into this Green Legacy Initiative?
It's historic, very important, very significant for Ethiopians, because forestry development is the fundamental thing in this country, if people really understand. Ethiopia actually needs the forest service, the ecological services from forests if they want to develop. You don't have hydropower if you don't have forest in terrain that's covered with forest. If you want rainfall to be really abundant and adequate for your agriculture, you need forest. If you want irrigation in the lowlands like we do now in wheat production large scale, you need reforestation in the mountains, in the highlands. By the way, almost 50% of our rainfall comes from forest regions in Congo. That forest is actually supplying most of the evaporation, most of the moisture. And it is called the Ariel River. The Ariel River actually originates not only from Atlantic Ocean or Indian Ocean during the bulk. Additional 50% moisture comes from Congo. If Congo forest is not there, you don't have Abai. You don't have rivers that are really flowing year in, year out. So forest-dependent economy. Ethiopia has forest-dependent economy. I think most of Africa, if they are really having like moisture for developing forest, are largely dependent on forest. For tourism, for electricity, for urbanization, for industry, for agriculture, any sector. So it's not a sector. In fact, people say it's a sector like agriculture, but it is forestry is really a foundation for all sectors. By the way, GLI then, what GLI is trying to do is really doing reforestation to cover the Ethiopian landscapes with trees, which is a perfect, timely initiative. And we are lucky that we have this agenda actually steered by the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. It's a really high-level initiative. And for forestry, it is maybe the most historic moment, I would say. But I think we're going to discuss how to go about it and what we have achieved so far. So I think we need to make it really more effective. We are doing our best. Yes, 18 billion seedlings, planting 18 billion seedlings in 3 years is a miracle. And of course, you see young trees here and there. If you really, walk around the city, you have young trees everywhere. But that's the result of this. Our history was deforestation, and now GLI is talking about reforestation. By the way, reforestation can be done through planting, but you can also depend on natural regeneration. You can set some areas aside and prevent the entrance of animals and people from cutting, etc. And this would also bring a lot of reforestation in this country. Assisted natural regeneration is another one, which improves the natural regeneration, which is slower. If you assist it, you can be faster and you can get forest quickly. Especially this is good for Afar, this Rift Valley, Somali, and Tigray and Wollo regions where you have dry. For planting, actually, you need a minimum of 800 millimeters. This is what my practical experience. In order to get good survival from planting, I think rainfall should be abundant or enough adequate. So if you plant seedlings in Afar and Somalia, it's dry. Either you have to irrigate it or the seedlings will die. So it's a very good one. We can really make it more strategic. By the way, it's an initiative led by the Prime Minister, isn't it? Now it is up to Ethiopians and our institution to make it more strategic. What does it mean? It means we need to define what GLI constitutes. What are its objectives clearly? What are the targets to be achieved in 2030 or 2040, whatever? We need to drive it into the long term, We need to take it, this national agenda and see it in the longer term. So we need because people don't have to be confused. If you talk about green could mean anything. What is Green Legacy Initiative? What it intends to achieve in Ethiopia? Is it really leaving the legacy by a few scattered trees in the country, or does GLI want to change the whole scenario from deforestation to reforestation that achieves reforested Ethiopia of maybe 40% or 30% or 50%? We need to really clarify on this. So make it more strategic, institutionalize it, drive it for effectiveness with support of really professionals. Even donors can come in terms of supporting it technically and financially.
The country targeted planting 20 billion trees as the Prime Minister initiated it. But so far, even for the first 3 years only, 18 billion seedlings were planted. And this year, the target is 6 billion. And it is already just to pass the set target 20 billion. But my point is, Though that is a very nice achievement in trees, how about just protecting and making or just bringing them into fruition?
Yes, that's a very important question, and many countries have failed the first 5-10 years, like South Korea. It has reforested its country now completely. The South Koreans are now concerned about how can we see the sky? Eh? It's because everywhere is, by the way, the terrain is like us. It's mountainous, hilly. All the hills are covered with forest. Now, these guys, the South Koreans are now concerned about, General Park was really good at doing this intervention, but we need some space. We need to really see the sky. Eh? You see, they have achieved really, but they failed in the first 5-10 years. Why? Because they thought that reforestation is a very simple thing that can be done by unskilled labor. No, it has to be professionally led. It has to be supported technically, really. Especially, even, let's start with the seedlings that we plant. I think trees require a specific environment. Different species require different environment. So if you bring Acacia tortilis, Cadecia from Rift Valley and plant it in Toto Hills, it doesn't grow. It suffers. It doesn't grow because it is a lowland, hot environment, dry environment plant. So really choosing the right species for the right purpose and in the right environment, climate and soil is the first thing to do. Even accessing land is not easy in Ethiopia. So if GLI needs to be very effective, I think we need to identify land in each Kabale in Ethiopia. That needs to be forested. And the metrics can change from billions of seedlings into hectares of forest in each Kabale developed. Hectares of forest developed in each Orada. Hectares of forest developed in each region. And this requires investment in expertise, investment in money for production of seedlings and planting and post-planting. That's very important, by the way. Seedlings are like human baby. You need to really care for them. Once they are planted, I think 8 months, 9 months, they would suffer without rain, because the 9 months, 8 months, 7 months is common in northern and central Ethiopia. So these seedlings, first of all, before you plant them, you have to make sure that they are fit for that environment. And when you plant them, they are healthy. They have soil around them. No? Bare seedlings may not be appropriate. So, containerized seedlings would be appropriate. Then this requires a lot of money. Are regions really investing money, allocating enough budget for GLI? We have to ask. If they don't have resources, are they asking for donors to support it? Forestry, by the way, requires a lot of money at first initial investment, but it's there for generations. Once you do it, it's for generations. So you don't have to simplify or oversimplify the success possibility. In fact, there are 25 plus factors that need to be assessed before you can be really successful in reforestation. So professional support, financial support, accessing land for reforestation, legislation supporting, incentivizing or punishing, wrong actions. They have to be there. Free grazing needs to be managed. Natural reforestation can be added in addition to planting, artificial reforestation, artificial and natural. You have to use both methods of reforestation for a better outcome, I would say. A number of things. 25 plus factors are there. I have written a book. You can find it online. That those 25 factors, mainly 5, but in detail, you have a checklist of 26 points that you need to really check before. The title of that book is actually Integration of Reforestation in Ethiopia's NDC, Nationally Determined Contributions. So I can give you can share that via maybe Telegram or email. Okay. In fact, it's not only even really taking care of them. Of course, you have to take for them after really you plant them. But the structural thing, even the structure, for effect, what is the purpose? If it is really controlling the erosion and moderating the hydrologic rainfall impact on Ethiopian landscapes, in fact, you have to have a blocked and fully covered forest. So in the hills, if you have one tree there, it's not effective. You need to have really structurally. You have to think of a continuous cover of forest. In that case, of course, you have to target hectares of forest that needs to be developed there. If it is just for shade, you can, one tree even is okay in your home garden or backyard, wherever it is. If it is urban forestry, of course you have like, you know, niches where, places where you plant trees, along streets, medians, you know, even around cities, in the backyards of individuals or institutions. So really think about what you want to achieve. That's what I mean, the strategic planning for GLI. The Prime Minister and Ethiopian people have brought the GLI thus far. But after this, we need to really sit and think about strategically and what improvements, assess our performance in the past and check for improvements and, you know, plan for those improvements. So I think it will be a good time by 2022, I think, end of 2022, we need to sit and think strategically, design plans that would really bring purposeful, that would lead into purposeful reforestation in Ethiopia. By the way, when I say this, any tree that is planted in Ethiopia is useful, not only for here, for even our neighbors, even globally. By storing carbon, you are trying to ameliorate or mitigate climate change. So any tree is useful, but you can make it more useful by making it more professional and purposive.
I believe that the sustenance of the Green Legacy Initiative would be meaningful with the involvement of or collaboration of the neighboring countries. So Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed took the initiative to involve those countries in the initiative, and they have just planted trees. Ethiopia just distributed seedlings to these countries. And how do you see that move by the Prime Minister?
That's very good. By the way, Ethiopia is a leading country. Of course, Africans really are looking at us, what's going on in Ethiopia. So we are leadership. We are at the top of the leadership in African development process. Of course, Haile Selassie, how influential was he? During the Dergiven, during after. What's happening now in this country today? We are having problems, isn't it? We need to really address internal problems, division among tribes, whatever, religion. Stop that. Africa actually wants you to move. And they are the ones really who are disappointed very much with what's going on right now. So correct that one. Then, of course, the smaller things that we can do is ask them to do reforestation, yeah? Please do reforestation. So if Sudan has reforestation, it will be beneficial for us and beneficial for the whole region. Somalia, by the way, Sudan, the most appropriate method of reforestation might be natural regeneration, because planting, they don't have a lowland close to the Sahel region, so moisture is not enough, so planting might be not the right means of reforestation. So you don't have to send seedlings to Sudan, but tell them that, promote the idea. Tell them that reforestation is useful, so let's do it together. Somalia, the same. By the way, Ethiopian reforestation is actually very beneficial. Ethiopian rainfall, of course, the rainfall of the region really falls on Ethiopian highlands. Most of the moisture falls here in Ethiopian highlands. And other countries get it through our rivers. We have 12 big rivers so that are really beneficial for Somalia, Sudan, Egypt, you know, the Nile thing. So they have to also be able to support our reforestation. They have to invest in money. They have to come and do, you know, assist with our reforestation, because eventually reforestation is enhancing the water resource, improving the flow of rivers, these big rivers, 12 big rivers in Ethiopia, and these are beneficial for Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, North Kenya, you know, whatever, Eritrea, Djibouti, many countries benefit from it. So why not they come here and assist with that, or send money, you know, to grow our seedlings. We are planting largely bare seedlings, which may not survive. So why not we produce containerized, although expensive, they are really better fit to our climate to survive. So they can come and support, or they can send their money and we can use it to develop our forest resource, which will be beneficial eventually to all of us in the region.
Throughout the Green Legacy Initiative so far, over the past 3 years particularly, and this year, what challenges have you observed that should be improved when the country just sustains with this project?
I'm very much engaged in RED+, so let's leave that there. But my recommendation now is let's sit now, see what our successes, what our failures were, and now, you know, have a very strategy, because Prime Minister will be very busy in other matters. Now, I think the Forestry Institution should take that initiative and drive it further. Yeah? So we need to have a document that specifies really its objectives, its vision, the mission of this GLI, the targets, and purposes, etc., have to be defined, and the resources that how we organize our resources so that we can achieve those targets, like the financial donors should be asked to to give money for this really is very essential and historic initiative in the country that will be beneficial not only to Ethiopia, to many countries around it. We have to also train people that are really there in the battlefront. So in Kabalis, where you have the plantations, the reforestation, do it professionally. So a number of things have to be assessed now. Let's sit and assess, see our achievements, positive, negative, evaluate them, and of course find answers for the negative ones. So one important point is, if we fail, of course other countries have also failed, thinking that reforestation is unprofessional, simple, unskilled work. No, it's not. It's a very scientific and engineering matter. So it's a lesson. So 5 years, 3 years with GLI, if we fail, no problem. Even South Korea, they failed for 10 years, even 14 years.
So we need just to take lessons from those countries who have started, failed, and just then become successful.
Take the lessons, correct it, and move on, so that you can really get, even then, 18 billion, from 18 billion, if we have like 8 billion of these seedlings really surviving in Ethiopia's landscape, it's a huge achievement already. You don't have to frustrate, you see? So positive, I am really still.
What benefits does it have in making the country greener, cleaner, and contributing to the economy as well as job creation?
In terms of job creation, let me start. I think Ethiopia, forestry sector is really, it absorbs a lot of jobs. Seed collection, nursery production. A hectare of nursery would absorb 20 people. Seed collection. For collecting a ton of seeds, you might need 10 people working for a week. Planting, like you said, tending, weeding, pruning, thinning, all the management after you plant. Harvesting, bringing it into industry and manufacturing furnitures or doors, a number of things. The value chain absorbs really, maybe it's my estimate, from a hectare of forestry, you may employ 100 people from A to Z, the value chain. A hectare of agriculture absorbs only 3-5 people of the family labor, isn't it? That's all. No. That doesn't absorb really a lot of work. So forestry is there really to absorb your unemployed people. How do you see that benefit? No. Even after you do that reforestation, if that makes you wealthy, ask Gojam farmers or Wollo farmers who are growing eucalyptus in Australian acacia. They are getting a lot of money, and from farmer, they are transforming their life from farming to service. They are buying Bajaj, minibus, etc., trucks. With that 5-6 years of production of wood, a lot of money comes and they buy, and they are moving, they are building houses in towns, nearby towns. They are getting money. It makes you also wealthy. It's not only absorbing, in terms of absorbing unemployed people, in terms of really building your economy also. Rural development is huge. Given, look, Sudan cannot really produce timber. We can. Somalia cannot. We can. Egypt cannot. We can. Even Saudi Arabia, if you move beyond, Arab countries, they don't have wood. We can produce wood, sell. We can make this country a hub for, commercially produced wood. We can be rich out of wood production. And foresters, one of the work of foresters is wood production. They are expected to at least meet the demands of the population, and if they are able, export more wood to other countries. Are we doing that? No. Have we ever been considered as an important sector so far? No. Thanks to this green initiative, climate change discussions, this is the only time that historically we have been seen as important in terms of economy. In terms of ecological services, of course, like I said, the water depends on our forest. If you want useful, and yes, the rivers, now we have deforested landscape. It is hilly, it is mountainous. So what happens is the rain comes every summer, but when it rains, what happens is it creates a lot of problems because of this flood. Because there is nothing that absorbs it. Forests are like sponge. They absorb it. They allow water to infiltrate and percolate. So it is useful. Either it's groundwater or it is flowing water during the dry, and they really make it more steady, more stable, more useful water. So I think the core resource Ethiopia has for its prosperity is water. But water doesn't become useful without really a good cover, forest cover in this mountainous and hilly country. So green legacy, if it is made effective, of course, if it is able to, if it is able to reach to that level, covering Ethiopia, closing Ethiopia, I think that makes miracles. And the secret of our prosperity is there. It's not really in the sky or the oil or petroleum. It is in the forest and water. So this one, it continues for generations to come. Oil, you can exhaust it. You can use it, finish, then you will have a problem. Arab countries, do they have any hope after 10 years? Maybe 50 years. Maybe they will be covered with the dust because they don't have inexhaustible resource like water, like Ethiopia. So forest and water should be at the core of the development agenda in Ethiopia. Of course, the mission of foresters as profession is to develop the forest in a sustainable manner, to provide services like rainfall, water protection, wildlife habitat, timber for different purposes, in perpetuity. It's not like cut and finish it. What happens so far is unprofessional. You deforest it, convert it to agriculture. Okay, foresters are there to save that resource and think about its silvicultural requirements and make it sustainable. And supply the water, maybe one service. Clean air is one service. 5 minutes, you don't stay without oxygen. Yeah? These are the ones, the trees are the ones that are providing. That service, huge service of forest, is not appreciated by Ethiopians. And I really frustrate when I think about it. So we need to educate our people very much. It's not really in the backbone of Ethiopian development is not agriculture, it is water. Agriculture, of course, benefits from irrigation. Hydropower, industrialization, urbanization depends on our water, hydropower, isn't it? Electricity is coming from hydropower. Wildlife, tourism, any sector, bring any sector, it benefits directly from the development in the forest sector. So please make it at the core. People have a good thinking that water is at the core of our development agenda. That's the one that really creates a launching pad. Forest is, of course, before even water. Because forest is the mother of water when you talk about rivers, streams, and green groundwater. So I think this linking nexus between forest and rainfall, forest and water, has to be appreciated, and professionals should really be trained along this area. And GLI has started it, but we have to make it more effective.
Yeah, that's my next point. It started, and we need just to sustain it. Okay, so what should be done to sustain the Green Legacy Initiative for the next, for example, 10, 20 years or so?
As I said, make it a strategic. Write a document stating, the assessment made, and the strategies that are designed to reach there. Also, clarify your objectives, mission in this GLI. We should maintain the name GLI because it is high value. It has been, launched by our Prime Minister, so historic. Legacy is key there. So green legacy. What are the objectives? What are the targets by 2030, by 2040? What needs to be done in order to bring results, quick results, in fact, in Ethiopian reforestation? Which institutions should be involved? How many experts are needed in each Worada or Kabali? How many budgets should be allocated by regional governments for this initiative? How much land is there? In fact, the very critical thing is the Supreme Court should decide where our forest land is. We don't have the concept of forest land in Ethiopia. If you ask a farmer in a village, he can't tell you that is farmland, that is grazing land, that is village. How about forest land? He would say, what? What is forest land? We don't have that, our cultural setup. But the most important thing is not in our cultural thinking, you see. If you don't have it in your culture, it's not there in your language. ጫካ አይደለም ምንለው የሽፍታ መደበቂያ which is wrong for Ethiopians. Of course it is the foundation of their prosperity. Their future is highly linked with forestry development. So make it more strategic, define it clearly, set goals, set targets.
Let me just take you to the Abai River. The Abai River basin or the Nile basin here in Ethiopia should be more cultivated, more covered with forests so that we can have a very good forest coverage and also reliable water source or rainfall, and also just the dam itself is also not silted.
So actually you can target your reforestation so that it really focuses on that basin. That's possible. But I think we need trees everywhere. But if we are able to cover up by basin with forest, and if we are managing the agricultural fields there so that they don't really waste water, they don't have erosion, you are going to stop silts in the landscape. So clean water will be filtered and reaches the Abai dam. That will actually be beneficial for the service years of the dam. Yeah? Otherwise, I think Abai is targeted for 50 years. Huh?
Sure. At least 50 years.
At least 50 years, I am not sure. So, in order to really keep that service year, I think you need to reforest it now. The best would have been first reforest the landscapes, the basin, cover it with grass and trees, and then build the structural engineering structure. But you are not able to do that because you need electricity. Even the wheat production, first try to really cover the landscape so that a lot of water, irrigation is needed during the dry season, isn't it? When you need water, the water is not there during the dry season. So forest, if you have forest, it will regulate it. It will make it percolate in the land, the mountains. So during the dry season, you have a very powerful river still flowing to your irrigation fields. This would happen. So the benefit is huge, really. So are we doing it in a very effective way so that we get this benefit of hydrologic manipulation through Ethiopian reforestation? Well, we don't have to be ambitious. We might be able to reach that there by in 20 years. Not really. Oh, you have done little things now. Even 18 billion is nothing for this big country, by the way. So you have to think really big and try. And Ethiopia is, I know, a scarcely forested country. We have below 20% of our land covered with forest. We might have to target 70% in 30 years. Isn't it? 70% of Ethiopia covered with forest, believe me, will result in prosperity in East African region, not only in Ethiopia. So 70% of Ethiopian territory covered with trees will be really a huge, huge change, and the huge change comes in terms of even prosperity, income level. So I think Green Legacy has started it. We need to enhance, we need to really improve it. We need to expand the scope from tree planting into natural regeneration also. Preserve what you have already, like the, Kafa, Jimma region. By the way, this forest is given to one regional state. No. Congo Basin. The Nile Basin Initiative, scope-wise, is at governance system is very narrow because the water, actually, the source of the water is Congo. So it should have been continental governance system. It's not sub-regional. Now, if you want a very stable territory, Ethiopia, that makes it more productive and prosperous, of course, deforestation in Congo should be a concern for us, even a concern for Egypt. If you don't have that 50% of moisture coming from Congo, if Congo is fully deforested, Abai will dry up. So even Ethiopia cannot really do rainfed agriculture. Forget about really sharing the water to Egypt and Sudan. So we will be in great crisis.
The filling of the dam, the third session filling of the dam, has also been successfully completed. So we are making this interview during this high time of news from the Grand Renaissance Dam. What does it mean as an African citizen, particularly the one who is living in the sub-Saharan African region?
So we have shifted from a folklore about Abai to real economic utilization. I heard that during the end of the Derg regime, we had only 320 megawatts of electricity for the whole country. Even government institutions were not able to get light. So now one unit of this hydropower turbine produces 270, almost equivalent to the whole country's electricity by that time. It's a huge change. So as an Ethiopian, I'm very happy, but I am also unhappy in some respects in this country. Division, talking about small things. Let me take this land. Oh, okay, Addis Ababa, this Warada should be there. This kind of things need to stop. Really, we need to show Africans that we are together, we are in unity, and we are going to lead you into right direction in terms of development and prosperity. I am very happy that we have.
Also in terms of using our own resources.
Yes, exactly. Of course, we are showing it through the dam, through GLI, through a number of things. But this politics internally, like cracking amongst ourselves, that should stop. It's disheartening, really. Many people like me may not be happy to live here because they have opportunity there, somewhere else. If you lose educated people, if they are unhappy, frustrated, how come a country grows? Do you think that only politicians will lead into development? No. The engineers are the educated people, let me tell you. The planners of the national development are educated people. And they need peace.
You are a professional forester. You have been just working in this sector for years. You are also leading a national project. But people are still cutting trees because they don't have electric stoves. Though they have the stoves, they cannot electrify that. So there is huge demand for energy. Even on those places, you are implementing the RED Plus project. So what does the Grand Renaissance Dam, what does the Grand Renaissance Dam means for the country, for those rural communities? My point is it is not significant, and the RED Plus itself is not that much significant, because Ethiopia is just a country of 120 million people and also wide geographical coverage, and there are just a number of people, 65 million people in Ethiopia have no access to electricity in both cases. I mean, just with the national grid and also with off-grid performances or programs. So it is just a real indicator that the country has adequate shortage of electricity, and this is why people are cutting until today forests, right, despite other factors.
Yes, that's right.
Despite other factors.
That's right. You cannot stop it.
So what does a Grand Renaissance Dam would mean in this case?
Of course, it means that some wood that would be burned will be will be saved in a way, because it will be replaced, substituted by electricity. It helps really regeneration of forest. It helps conservation of forest. Of course, it is one strategic direction we have, by the way. So yeah, that is the thing. Now these 65 million people work on land. If they are urbanized, they don't need the land. So that would be maybe for forest or modern agriculture. So gradually, Ethiopia will be concentrating its population into urbanized centers. Yes? So the process is starting through Renaissance Dam, because it is supplying them electricity. So a villager at the top of the hill will say, okay, let me go to this small town so that I can access Abay's electricity. So you have a hill for you to develop it into a forest.
Yeah, instead of just
yes, cutting yes, farming, yes, grazing. Free grazing is really, we have destroyed our environment for millennia. So now GLI is in one direction. GLI is pushing reforestation and increasing forest cover, and the Renaissance Dam is trying to reduce cutting of trees for firewood. Positive, both of them are positive for our forests.
Thank you so much for sharing me your ideas, Dr. Itabutu Moges, who is a national coordinator of the RED Plus program. I really appreciate for the ideas you have shared with me.
Thank you very much, really, for the opportunity, and I hope Ethiopians will listen to really people who are concerned like me in terms of our future. So forestry is our future. Water is our future. Please pay attention to that and support such initiatives like GLI and reforestation.
Dear viewers, this is a conversation with Dr. Itabutu Mogas, who is the National Program Coordinator of RED Plus program. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching us, and see you another time.